Thanks for joining me. This is Danny, and welcome back to my modded 1.12.2 series. Today we're going to be playing a little bit more with Actually Additions. I have two kind of advanced projects that I want to work on with Actually Additions today. The first of them is playing around with the player interface, which is basically going to give us wireless charging of our stuff, so that whenever we're near our base, we're always going to have RF in our we're going to have RF going into our inventory, and it's going to recharge our battery and anything else that we have that requires power. And we can also use it to move items around. We can basically treat our inventory as an inventory, as like an inventory in the world. So we're going to kind of play around with that a little bit and do some interesting things with that. And then what I want to do after that is I want to generate some ores. I want to automate an ore generation setup so that we can have ores coming in whenever we need them without having to manually set up a quarry and do stuff like that. So it'll be a setup kind of similar to like a quantum quarry or something like that, or at least the result will be similar to what we would get with a quantum quarry, except it's going to be a much more interesting setup, I think. So that's what we're going to work on today. So first we need to make the player interface. This guy is not cheap. It requires 5 of these ender casings. So we're going to need 20 empowered diamantine crystals and 20 ender pearls, and then we also need another couple of diamantine crystals in here, so 22, and then a wither skull. So yeah, this is definitely not going to be a cheap recipe, but we can afford it. It's not a problem. Right, there we go. See, look at that. I totally wasn't lying about not being able, about being able to afford it. So then we're also going to need some XNet cables, because we're going to do a little bit of trick, a little bit of a trick with XNet. I want to grab some XNet connectors. Actually, I think we're going to need like 2 of these now. I'm kind of surprised we didn't already have some on hand. And then I also want to make a drawer, or actually let's just grab this set of drawers and a key and an exporter. And you'll see what we're going to do with that in a bit. So we just placed this guy in the world. Actually, I'm going to place it over in this corner for a couple of reasons. This thing does have a range of about 32 blocks or something like that. Actually, let's just double check just to make sure we know exactly what we're doing here. Can we do like a... No, okay, whatever. But we can click to search and we can say player interface, but I already have a bookmark for it. So as we can see, the player interface has a default range of 32 blocks, but it can be extended by placing up to 3 phantom boosters on top of it. And in my testing, I found that if I place exactly 2 phantom boosters on top of this thing, that will cover our entire base all the way over to here, from here all the way over to here. So that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chunks that we're going to be covered. Whenever we're in this area, we're going to get the benefits of this. So I want to put a connector on it. I'm going to put the connector on the side because we're going to be putting phantom boosters on the top. And then we're just going to connect that to our XNet system. I guess I'll put it up here so that it's kind of level with everything else. And then the first thing I want to do is I want to get some power in there. So we're just going to go into our power channel, and we are going to power our player interface. So there's a player interface. All we have to do is pipe power in there. So now that we are piping power into our player interface, our battery is being charged. Nice! Right! That was so easy, right? Cool. So now the next thing I want to do is something a little bit fun with our inventory. There's a lot of different things you can do, because so now this block is our inventory. In fact, if we hold shift over while we're hovering over it, we can see our entire inventory is in there. Like everything that's in here is in there. So if we put something in there, it's going to end up in our inventory. If we take something out of here, if we pipe something out or whatever, if we put a hopper on the bottom of this thing, it's going to pull everything out of our inventory and it's going to go into that hopper. By the way, you can troll with this thing. Just in case you're wondering, when you place the block, it's bound to you. So you can see it's bound to Danny DJDK, and my UUID is right there. If you get the player probe, you can click another player with this guy, right-click any player with it, and then right-click the interface. But watch out. The probe will notify the player and disconnect them whenever they sneak, and will also do when they leave the server. So, so yes, you can troll players, but it's not a permanent troll. Like, all they have to do is sneak, and it will go away. And of course, it'll tell them to. So it's not like, it's not totally dangerous. Like, you're not going to completely mess with somebody's life with that thing. But you'll probably, you can definitely have some fun with it. Mess around with your friends. Okay, so I'm going to place that drawer there. I'm going to lock it, and I'm going to put one thing in there. Actually, first I want to downgrade. I'm going to downgrade this guy with our storage downgrade, which basically makes it so that it only stores one stack per thing, because we don't want to stack any more than that, or we don't want to do any more of that. So I'm going to take an arrow, and I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to take the exporter, and I'm going to export arrows into there. So it should just fill up that one slot with arrows. As you can see, it's filling up that one slot with arrows. So it's going to have one stack of arrows in there. And we also happen to have an XNet connector connected to this thing. So basically what I've just done is I've given our XNet system access to arrows. So now what we're going to do with those arrows, actually, let's just fill that up. What we're going to do with those arrows is I'm going to create a new item channel, because I don't want it to mess with the other channels. And I'm going to go to the player interface, and I'm going to create a node, and it's going to be an insert node, and we're going to have a max amount in inventory of 64, and we're going to say arrows. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell XNet, hey, you can export arrows into this inventory, but only 64 of them. So what that's going to do is, when XNet has access to arrows on that channel, is every time we are within range of the player interface, we're going to get our arrows maxed out to 64. So we're always going to have a stack of arrows in our inventory. So when we're out fighting and shooting arrows and stuff, and we use some out there, as soon as we come back here, it's going to replenish it for us. So then, I guess the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into that same channel, and we're going to find that drawer. Now there is one annoying thing about this, and I'll show you that in a second. We're going to find the drawer right here, and we're going to extract stacks. And you can see it put up to a stack. It brought us up to a stack of arrows. Now the one annoying thing about it is that if we have any slots open in our hotbar, it's going to put them in there. So that was the easy project. Now we're going to do something a little bit more interesting and challenging. And this is what we're going to need. We're going to need an igneous extruder from Thermal Expansion. This is going to make stone for us. We need a lens of the miner. This is the magic piece right here, and it's a little bit expensive, but not terrible, from Actual Additions. And this is going to generate ores from stone. We need an atomic reconstructor. That's what the lens goes on. And then we need an auto placer and an auto breaker to place and break blocks. And then we need some network cables and connectors from XNet, a couple of sequencers, 3 sequencers from RF Tools, and then a infinite water supply. I'm using a sink and a pump to get water out of the sink, because the igneous extruder does not pull fluids. So, and we need to get water into the igneous extruder. We're also going to need 1 bucket of lava. Okay, so I am going to put the sink down here. We don't need to see that. It looks a little silly anyway in this setup. We're going to put the pump on top of it. Actually, we're going to have to put a lever on that pump. So I'm just going to hide the lever over here. Got to give these pumps a redstone signal in order for them to pull. And then on this side, we're going to take our hammer, and we're going to right click it twice to make that orange, so that it will output to this fluid pipe that will go into our igneous extruder. And I set the igneous extruder to pull from the bottom. Oh, and then we need to turn the lever on. So we should now have water coming in. Yay! And then we need a bucket of lava. And we are going to tell this guy that we want to make stone, because that's what we want to make. So we're going to stick some lava in there. And we only need to put 1 bucket of lava in there. It will not consume lava, but it will consume water. So that's why we have to pump water in it constantly. So every time I make stone, it's going to take 1 bucket of water, and it's going to use the lava to basically do like a cobble gen thing and then turn it into stone. And then we want an auto placer right here. And we want this guy to output to the auto placer so that as it makes its stone, it fills up the auto placer with that stone. Because the auto placer is then going to place that stone right here. I'm going to grab a redstone torch so that we can toggle this machine, because when we set it down, it's in deactivation mode. We want it in pulse mode. We want all of our machines to be in pulse mode. And then above this, I'm going to put an auto breaker. I'm just going to dig into the ground here a little bit so that I can face the right way, so that the auto breaker is facing down. And we're also going to put that in pulse mode. And we're going to put those blocks back. And then we're going to have our atomic reconstructor over there facing in this direction. Again, we want this in pulse mode. And we're going to put the lens of the miner on the atomic reconstructor. So ultimately what we're going to be doing is we're going to be generating stone. This guy is going to place the stone. This guy is going to bzzzt the stone with the lens of the miner. That's going to turn it into a block of some ore, random ore, based on the standard distribution in the world. So it's similar. It's very similar. This whole setup is very similar to a setup that I did with Britannia, using the orchid from Britannia. The Actual Editions lens of the miner does very similar things. And then the auto breaker will break it and pick it up, and then it will then get pulled back into our inventory system. So for all this to happen, I've got 3 sequencers. We're going to put one sequencer facing our auto placer. We're going to have one facing the auto breaker, and then we're going to have one facing the atomic reconstructor. And then here's what's going to happen. So these sequencers, we've worked with these in the past. This is RF Tools. It basically outputs redstone pulses based on which ones of these we enable in the sequence. So what's going to happen is every time this thing runs, or every time this thing gets a redstone signal, or however we decide to set it up, it's going to basically run through these steps. And whenever it hits an enabled step, it's going to turn on redstone. Whenever it hits a disabled step, it's going to turn off redstone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a 3-tick delay, which means that every step is going to take 3 ticks. This is just the balance point that I found that allows us to get the fastest performance in this setup without losing any materials or RF. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to enable all of these on the left. So once every 8 steps, it's going to pulse for 3 ticks. And then each one of these is going to be 3 ticks. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 21 ticks. So it's going to pulse for 3 ticks. It's going to turn off for 21 ticks. It's going to pulse for 3 ticks, turn off for 21 ticks. So every 24 ticks, this thing's going to get a redstone pulse, which is going to cause it to go bzzzt to the block that's right here. However, we want to go with loop number 4. So all these different things tell us how it's going to behave, like when it's going to go through these loops. Loop number 4 is going to loop this cycle when a redstone signal is present. So when we give this sequencer redstone signal on this side, so when there's a redstone going into the blue arrow, it's going to go through the sequence and output here. And then it's going to restart on no signal. So when it loses a signal, it's just going to basically clear itself until it gets the next signal, again, a redstone signal, and it's going to start right at the beginning. So this first one, we're going to have all these ones on the left enabled. So first it's going to bzzzt, and then we're going to pick up that block. So we're going to go to the auto breaker, and we're going to skip one, and then we're going to go over here. And we're going to do the exact same thing. And we're going to do loop 4 again, and we're going to have the 3-tick delay. And what's going to happen is we're going to give all 3 of these sequencers a redstone signal at the same time. So this one's going to go bzzzt, and then it's going to wait 3 ticks, and then this one's going to pulse, causing it to break the block, and then it's going to wait 3 ticks, and then this one's going to pulse. So we're going to do that all the way down here, and we're going to do loop 4 again with a delay of 3. And then we just need to get power in everything too. So I'm going to put a connector here. I'm I'm going to put a connector there, and I'm going to put a connector there, and a connector here, because we need to get power into this. So these connectors are going to put redstone into the sequencer when we want this thing to run, and then these connectors are obviously just going to power these two machines. And then we'll just use cables to connect this to the rest of our system. Let's just do it right here, I guess. Okay. Oh, and up here. You know what? I'm just going to make this more compact. I don't really have any good reason for having that space there. I did in one of my test setups, but in this particular setup, we're not going to need that. So let's just move the atomic reconstructor here. We're going to power atomic reconstructor, and we're going to power the igneous extruder. And we should see this guy is running, and it is making stone. And that stone is getting placed in our placer, and then this guy is also full of power. Hooray! We might have to put an advanced connector on here, but we'll see. And we may have to upgrade this too, because this thing is not as fast as what this setup is going to be. So we'll see how this goes. I have one more thing I need to do with this setup before we can start programming everything. That is that we have to extract from our auto breaker. So I'm actually just going to go behind it in the wall. And place some cables there, and then we can facade these cables so that we can't see them. There. Now all we have to do is give all three of these a redstone signal when we want this to go. And what I'm going to do, so now what we had done in the past is we have bees right now that are generating diamonds for us, but they do it really, really slow. So I have them generating diamonds until we get like 1,000 diamonds or something like that. Right now we only have 164 diamonds, and then what I have here is I have a detector that's saying when we have fewer than 150 diamonds, emit a redstone signal, and what that's doing is it's triggering our quarry, which is in the deep dark right now. I'm going to remove that. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of that piece of redstone because that's actually what's powering this redstone transmitter, which is sending the signal to our quarry. We don't want to do that anymore, because now what we want to do is if we get fewer than 150 diamonds, actually I'm going to crank that up to 200 in a bit, then we want to run this system. So we're no longer going to be running the quarry. And the significance of this is that because our bees generate diamonds really slowly, when our diamonds get low, we're going to want them to be generated a little bit more quickly than the bees can generate them. So then this guy is going to run, and it's going to get diamonds for us faster than our bees will. It's also going to get us a whole bunch of other stuff, and a lot of it is stuff that we really don't need. But as we'll see, it's going to actually be pretty fast at generating ores, not necessarily diamonds, but ores for sure. Our logic channel, we already have a logic channel set, or a logic node set up for our detector. So when the detector is outputting a redstone signal, it's outputting to color red. So when red is true, that means that we need diamonds. We need fast diamonds. So what we're going to do then is when that's red, and we also have our ore chest here for processing ores. We don't want that chest to overflow, because if that chest overflows, then it's going to start dumping ores into the system. So we want to stop. So there's two conditions where we want to stop the system. If we have enough diamonds, we want it to stop. If we have too many ores and our system has fallen behind, we want it to stop then as well. So we have a detector set up here, and it's outputting to white when we have fewer than 5,300 items. So we only want that thing to run when white is true and red is true. So all three of those sensors can receive a redstone signal. So I'm going to create a node in the logic channel, create a output node on red and white, and we're going to output a redstone signal of 15. 15 on white and red. I better do that first. Next time, I just heard a block break over there. On white and red, I'll put 15. Alright, so that should do it. So it placed the stone, which is fine. And we've got lots of stone kind of building up in there, so that'll keep us running for a little while. All right, so here we go. So now if I, oh wait, we have one more thing. Actually, let's just hold off on that. We're gonna have to pull from the breaker, but let's not do that yet. Let's just keep the stuff in the breaker so we can see what's going on. So I'm gonna set this to 200, and it should start running. There we go. Nice. And it's just putting it all in the breaker. Look at that. So we can actually make this a little bit faster. So first it does the atomic reconstructor, then there's 3 ticks, and then it does the block breaker, and then there's 3 ticks, and then it does the block placer. And then it waits for 9 ticks before it goes back to here. We don't really have to do that. Let's have XNet pull that stuff out now. So we've got the auto breaker, and we already have a channel set up that we were using our query for, and that's channel 2. That's where stuff is getting input into the chest for ore processing. And if it doesn't fit this criteria, then it just goes into a chest that gets pulled right into our RS system. So all we have to do is, on this particular channel, is we have to find our auto breaker, and we just have to extract from it. Oh, and actually let's extract stacks, because if we extract it, and you can hear our grinder is working right already. We want to extract stacks, otherwise it's not going to be able to keep up. So it's probably already empty. Oh, almost empty. Okay. So if we watch the power in our atomic reconstructor, we can see we're just giving it enough time right now to fill back up with power. If it doesn't fill up with power, it's not going to convert this block, and we're going to end up picking up a piece of cobblestone. Okay, so I changed this to an advanced connector, and I added a bunch of connectors to the power cell, so it's now pulling from every side, which means we should now be able to pull 30,000 hour per tick, which is about 3 times as much as we were pulling before. So here's what I found. If we do the reconstructor, skip 1, and then the next one is going to be the block breaker, skip 1, and then the next one is going to be the block placer, skip 1, and then the next one is going to be the atomic reconstructor again. So basically, we're going to skip 6 and then go to the next one. So 1, 2, no, actually that was right. Skip 5 and then go to the next one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is what it ends up looking like. And then we skip that last row because we don't have enough time for another full cycle. So then here we're going to do a similar pattern, except it's going to start here. Okay, and then here it's going to start there. Okay, so we'll see how fast this is, and whether or not we end up picking up cobblestone. Nice, look at that. That's nice. That is really fast. Okay, so we can go even faster, but then we run out of power. Which means that it's not going to be able to do things like diamonds, so we don't want that. It was nice to have that really, really fast setup. I slowed it down a little bit, just so that we can keep up with the power better. Although that was actually working really nicely. I was amazed that it was actually working well that fast. So now we gotta upgrade our igneous extruder because it's not gonna keep up. I mean, you can see how fast it's using stone and how fast it's making stone. It's like it's using 3 stone for every like 1 that it makes. So I did auto-craft a couple upgrades already. We're gonna go hardened and then reinforced, and let's see if that does the trick for us. Probably won't, but we'll see. Almost. Okay, so we'll have to add a couple augments. Of course, it's going to increase the power requirements of this thing. This thing is pulling a lot of power. It's 60 kRF for every time it's doing this, and then of course our igneous extruder is also using some RF. Let's see, 40 RF per tick. Okay, I got 2 auxiliary reception coils. I'm sure this will be more than fast enough. Yeah. Oh, it's very close. Look at that. Oh boy, our water's not going in fast enough. So you know what, as long as we have 9 stacks of stone here, I'm going to put an external storage on that thing so that we always have access to that stone in our system. Because most of the time this thing isn't going to be running. Like once we get all the diamonds we need, it's not going to run anymore. And we're usually going to have more diamonds than we need because of the bees. It'll only run like when we use a lot of diamonds at once. Remember when I said this thing's going to take a lot of power? Well, we ran really low on power. So I added one more criteria to our logic here because we now have it. I now have it checking how much RF we have in our power cell, and I'm saying if we have less than 6 million, or actually I'm outputting to blue if our energy is greater than 6 million. So it's only going to run if we have at least 6 million RF in our system. If we run lower than that, it's going to stop for a while while we catch up. So now I have these doing enable on red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. Nice. So now it'll only run if we have enough power. So you can see it's now being throttled now that our power is hovering around 6 million. And then it stops. What? Oh. I put an external storage on the back of the auto placer, and I have a filter in it so that it only allows stone in and out. So whenever we need stone, we'll have access to it. So one more Actual Additions thing I want to take a look at, and that is the Lens of Disenchanting. Again, it's not cheap. It's 7 empowered diamantine crystals and an enchanting table. We just put it on our atomic reconstructor. We throw something that's enchanted along with a book, and it takes an enchantment off of the item. So in this case, it had Unbreaking 3. It put it on the book, and now we only have Protection 4. So now we can do that again to get rid of the Protection 4. Oh. And now we have a Protection 4 book. Yay! And we have an unenchanted diamond helmet, which I'm going to put in a pulverizer to get some diamonds from. So now we can put this guy in here, and we can get 7 diamonds. 7 diamonds? Oh, wow. Oh, no, we don't want to pulverize our diamonds. And then this should give us 5 diamonds. Yay! Before I go today, we are getting a lot of gems. Rubies, peridot, and crap like that, which basically has no purpose whatsoever. Except one interesting purpose. Well, besides the terrestrial artifact. And we can generate RF from it using the lapidary calibration augment in the numismatic dynamo. Now, this is a very strange machine. It generates energy with currency, normally, but you can augment it with a specialization called the lapidary calibration, which allows you to generate energy from rubies and many other things. So, many other gems. So, here's our numismatic dynamo. I had to make some constantan, which is basically just nickel and copper, and a redstone transmission coil. And then we have to make that augment. That gets a little tricky, but I've already done most of the difficult stuff. And that is, we need electrum, which is just silver and gold. We need the redstone conductive coil. We need signalum. Now, this is actually the first time that we're making signalum. Actually, let's just look this up so that I can kind of show you what I've done so far. I did it all already, but so signalum is made, from signalum blend and red sand in the induction smelter, or any kind of sand in the induction smelter. You also have a chance of getting slag. And the signalum blend is copper, 3 copper, 1 silver grit, and a bucket of destabilized redstone. I thought there was another way to do it too, but whatever, that's fine. And then we have electrum, which is silver and gold, and then this erothium dust, which is basically niter, which we get when we grind up sandstone into sand. There's also a few other ways to get it, but it's basically a byproduct of certain things. And then blitz powder, which we get from grinding up blitz rods from the blitz mob, although I haven't seen any spawning around. But so there's an alternative way, and that's just to stick some sand in the fluid transposer with destabilized redstone. We already have a fluid transposer downstairs that's generating destabilized redstone. So let's just put this down here. I'm going to put this in our power plant eventually, but just to kind of play with it for now, I'm going to set this up. Whatever, I'm going to set up right over there. Throw this augment in there. Oh, actually we have to upgrade it first. So we can just do a hardened upgrade. I'm actually, as long as we're upgrading it, I'll just do a reinforced upgrade right away too. And then we can add some other upgrade to it as well. I am going to turn that off for a little while because the noise is driving me nuts. We have 180 diamonds now, so we're doing pretty well. I'm just going to set this to 180 for now. Just so that we don't have to listen to that. Alright, so now we've got 2 upgrades in there. It's going to maximum power of 80 RF per tick now, so we can stick this in here, and now it's got a maximum power of 400 RF per tick. 400 RF per tick, so this is a pretty good deal. Because we're getting all the sapphire, we're getting a lot of different gems, and like I said, there's really no point in these. So we stick it in there, and it burns it up. And starting RF. Nice. And we can put another upgrade in there to make it generate even more RF per tick. I don't know if we really need to though, because we're not going to be generating this stuff all the time. But what's nice about it is we're going to get a little extra power boost while we're running this thing, because that's when we're going to be getting all these useless gems. There we go. We're producing 400 RF per tick with our rubies. Nice. I have those being exported into this drawer right now, and I have XNet putting them into this numismatic dynamo. The RF that it produces is based on need. So like, if this thing gets full and then this thing starts to fill up, it's going to produce less RF per tick. Alright, I've got these guys pushing 700 RF per tick right now. I got 2 reception coils and I upgraded them to Signalum, our first Signalum upgrades. Hooray! And I have some auto crafting for that. So I think in the future, maybe perhaps in the next episode, we're going to get a little deeper into thermal expansion. And I'll have to think about a new project that we want to do with thermal expansion. So I do hope you join me for that. If you do have any questions, comments, ideas, whatever, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And of course, if you did enjoy this, don't forget to click the like button and join me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.